Now this one starts very quickly, and this boy's name is Carl, and he's living with his parents in a remote village. There his father worked as a corn farmer, watching his father work every day, very hard. And he just felt sorry for his dad. His father always said that Carl should focus on studying and doing something else than what he's doing, or to help his own dad. And he kept insisting that his father finally allowed him to help him. A few years later, Carl has grown up now while working in the garden. Suddenly, his mother comes to tell him to get ready. It turns out that today is Carl's departure day to take part in the United States Naval Military Training Selection. Now, at the moment, you have to understand that there's separation. Now, at the moment, you have to understand that because of this separation of his dad approaches him and asks him to promise never to return to the village. Again, never to return to the village. Sad. However, his father still had to say these words because he wanted his son to be able to focus on working something different, something else, and become a successful person in the city without having to think about his family. But when he arrives now at the military base, Carl just becomes a cook. At that time, the American military did not allow black people to join the military. They still think black people are slaves who have to work under the feet of white people. The next day, Carl and his friend saw a white student in their class swimming with his friend, explaining that the swimming schedules of white people and black people are very different. And Carl starts wondering why it just has to, and all of a sudden they just want to swim. And so when Carl recklessly throws himself into the pool, everyone there immediately insults him, even the captain of the ship, to order his assistant to expel this person as a result of the incident. He was locked up in the punishment room when the captain of the ship came, and he said he was impressed by Carl's swimming speed. The captain then put him into the rescue swim team. Hearing that Carl was very happy, he then immediately wrote a letter to notify his parents. The next day, he saw a helicopter crash in the middle of the sea. Panicked, the ship's captain immediately ordered a diver to save the helicopter pilot. After a long wait, the diver finally made it out. The diver's name is Chief Sunday. He was approached by a student named Snow Hill, that is. He was the only white person willing to say hello to Carl, regardless of his skin color and the segregation insults around him. He then informed that the camp was led by a former Marine named Mr. Poppy Snow Hill, that is. He then escorted him to his dorm room, which was there a new white student who did not accept Carl's arrival. When Chief Sunday came, he explains to all the students that Carl is now part of the student training camp at the camp's hearing. And of course, at the camp's hearing the coach's word, the other students then one by one left the dormitory and said it's better to get out of the Navy than to sleep in the same room with a black guy. So of course, only Carl is left with Snow Hill. At night, he forces Carl to get up and drags him outside. He shows him and tells him that he doesn't deserve to be lazy because Chief Sunday accepts black people. His name is now Tarnished Carl. They're only able to survive the torture of the coach the very next day with a lot of will and a lot of determination in the mind. Since yesterday's incident, he realized Carl was much better than him, but nevertheless he could not refuse the orders of the superiors. He then relayed the order to Carl there. They both argue because Carl still wants to take the exam. The emotional Chief Sunday immediately slammed the radio that Carl's father gave him. Seeing the only thing left by his father was damaged, Carl is very sad about this. And the very next day, when all the participants were getting ready, unexpectedly Carl came. He then looked at his coach with a look full of confidence. Seeing that look, Chief finally had no choice and allowed him to take the exam. After all participants are ready, the exam starts. From above, several people threw the bag containing the test kits into the water. But when it was Carl's turn, the bag was torn up on Mr. Poppy's order. In the water, he knows nothing. He was still trying to find the equipment. Several hours passed. The participants one by one successfully completed the exam until Carl was left in the water. Mr. Poppy, who monitors the exam, then tells Chief to let Carl stay in the water. until he runs out of breath. He wants to kill him. There he felt a dilemma he couldn't refuse Mr. Poppy's order because his career would be ruined while Joe was at work and feeling a bad feeling about Carl. She then rushed off to the exam venue until late night. Carl was still under the sea. The chief and the other examiners seemed to be starting to get worried, but Mr. Poppy kept shouting over the phone from afar to tell Chief not to help Carl in the midst of worry. He finally decided to go against the boss's order and immediately ordered the other participants to raise Carl to the surface. But when they tried to pull Carl suddenly rose to the surface and he passed. Perfect. The next day at the graduation ceremony, Snowhill comes to camp to tell him the good news and the bad news. The good news is that the Navy has allowed him to take up diving training again. And the bad news is Chief Sunday has been fired for defying Mr. Poppy's order. By passing Carl there, he could only be silent. He then packed his thing on the bed. He was surprised to see that his father's radio had returned intact. He found out that Chief Sunday fixed it a few years later. Carl is now a senior diver in the Navy. He's also married and has a son currently. He is carrying out the greatest mission in the history of the United States, namely to find a nuclear bomb that sank on the seabed. The commander told him when the bomb exploded, then the power of the explosion could make an entire region completely destroyed. At first, the commander doubts if Carl can complete the mission because, he's black. But he again proved to everyone that he succeeded about his success. Carl's success was broadcasted live across America. Carl, who used to be despised just because he was black, now he's a hero. The commander. He's now a hero. Now after a while, the commander then orders the other members to raise the bomb to the surface. But when the bomb was lifted, when Carl wakes up, he is shocked why he's in the hospital. Then informed him that it was the result of yesterday's incident and his leg was almost severe and he was sentenced to be unable to walk normally. Again, hearing this, he was shocked. He felt ashamed of his father for failing to make him proud, to make him happy, to make him feel happy about him. On the other hand, Chief Sunday is seen in a mental hospital due to severe depression after his diving license was revoked and suspended. The next day, when he was sitting alone, a nurse gave him a newspaper. In the paper, he saw the news about Carl's accident. Yesterday, as a former teacher, she felt Carl's accident. Now, as a former teacher, she felt compelled to go see Carl at the hospital. The commander and his assistant came to see Carl not long after the naval captain, named Hanks. Also, Captain Hanks reluctantly stated that he would never be able to dive again. Hearing Captain Hanks' words, he then showed a newspaper story about a proud Air Force pilot who only had one leg. He asked Captain Hanks to give him a few weeks to prove that he too was capable of carrying out the pilot's duty and becoming an amazing Navy honorable and integrity soldier and person. Then after everything was ready, he started to stand up and stated his 12 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, look at him go. Move your ass. I want my 12, 9, the 9 diver, and now you report to this live. Now you, okay? He finally managed to complete his 12 moves. Seeing Carl's effort, Captain Hanks and all the higher-ups then decided to agree to Carl rejoining the Navy divers. Suddenly the whole audience stands up, filled with joy and felicity and in accord because of so much integrity and so much honor, and they applaud him in amazement to see Carl struggle in the midst of the festivities. People are crying, people are clapping, and his duty as a teacher has been completed. He then walked away and saluted the final salute to the black student who has taught him a valuable lesson in life, namely the determination to achieve goals with a determined, strong mind after strongholds, captivity, and oppression. If you have received value in this video, I believe you know what to do. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for listening.